That war we have to fight. But this war is fought by by understanding, by cognitive understanding. Whether we say cognition, whether we say, we use the word discernment, viveka or vairagya. And since our birth, take this example of this birth I was talking last week, that when there is a baby in the womb of the mother, so science looks from a different point of view and we look from the different point of view. So the science looks that, oh, there is a movement in the womb of the mother, so the baby is healthy. So we say that that baby finds limited in the womb of the mother. There is a sense of limitedness. Consciousness is so much limited. That's why, the baby is throwing the legs and the hands. It wants to be free. It wants to become totally free. And that impressions of the limitedness continues throughout the life unless one is introduced the Eastern wisdom. No, this is your ignorance. You are not the body. That is why you are feeling limitedness. And because of that limitation, we suffer from insecurity, dissatisfaction, and unhappiness. Even when we come out of the womb of the mother, we start throwing our legs and the hands and start crying. So our master says that, it is because of the limitation, I cannot walk. What should I do? So that is why they are throwing the arms and the legs. I'm not able to do anything independently without the help of the others. And that causes the sense of dependence. And there comes the emotional dependence. And this journey continues until the teacher comes from the Eastern wisdom, or one studies the literature and says that, oh, this is your ego. You are not an individual self, you are the real self. The real self is always unlimited, infinite. It is always full of peace and happiness. And that struggle continues. So we are studying obviously the Vichar Sagar, and that demands clarity, understanding. We should understand. So what happened when one starts reading the path? In the beginning it is okay. In the beginning we say bring an end to the suffering by removing the ignorance. One. And then awaken to the peace and happiness. But what to do with those pleasures that we experience from people, from relations, from food, from hugging someone, or getting married, having the sexual pleasure, having the pleasures from the food. We are excited to have the pleasure to buy a new car, a new home, and constantly changing our clothes. So that pleasure, which we say is the short-term happiness, the mind doesn't want to leave it. It is a very strong level of ignorance. Why the mind does not want to leave it? Because the mind has yet to discover if the peace and happiness are located in anything in the world, including any person, or we have to understand clearly that peace and happiness are not the properties of any object in the world, any person in the world, any relation in the world, any situation in the world. So we study, we understand intellectually, and then the next day we wake up in the morning and the mind says, have a cup of tea. Majority of the people take a cup of tea for the sake of pleasure, or anything in the world, or remember the sexual pleasure. So this master says that there still continues a sense of confusion. Even in the monastery, there is 1 or 2 hours of the sessions by the teacher, and then the teacher says, now get ready for a breakfast. So everyone starts running there. We used to run to the kitchen and we used to sit down and people used to serve the breakfast, subconsciously and habitually. So there is a sense of emotional dependence is always there. So because of this, the seeker is asking, you are saying that happiness is within and peace is within, the love is within. So is it possible that I should not leave the pleasure that I am getting from the world outside, from the people, situation, relations, and let me awaken myself? Master says it is not possible. As long as you have an idea of a duality, that you are different and separate from the world outside, it is not possible. You cannot reach to that state of awakening. So Buddha found an easy path. Buddha said it is better emptiness. There is nothing from outside. It's also a way. Empty, no, nothingness is there. Because the moment I think of anything, the duality comes. So there is nothingness. But there is a fear. So we have to understand, anytime we have to be little more aware. Okay, I'm eating the food, and the mind says, oh, you eat this and not that. You wear this and not that. You love this God and not that. So the master is saying that as long as there is a sense of duality, I and you, I and he, I and she, I and the situation, that duality gives me a sense of incompleteness in me. And that causes the desire to grab something from outside and to grab something outside. Why? To have an imagined pleasure. Now I am using another word. So in any situation, any object, any relationship, there is an imagined pleasure. Women are the same. I had recently, this guy contacted me whose daughter has been learning from me for a couple of years, and now it's very easy in the world outside, because I'm seeking a pleasure from a partner which I divorced for the last 7 or 8 months. So then he came back and he said, now I started contemplating and reflecting. I said, there is some problem with me. I said, obviously you have a lot of problem with you. But at the same time, he has another partner. So I asked him that after your divorce, within a week or so, you got another partner. Can you tell me that you superimpose the pleasure, peace and happiness with the first partner, which did not work? Now you have carried the same burden in your head. and you are superimposing the same on the other partner. Now I have a simple question. You have an imagined pleasure with one partner. That's why you got married and you have the kids. And now that imagination was shattered. Now you continue with the same imagination on the second partner. You know what happened? I thought that he is very intellectual, he will understand it clearly. He is not attending my session for the last almost 5 or 6 weeks. So I said, let me ask. So now see that intellectually I understand the problem. But mind does not allow me to understand the problem. So what he told me, I'm totally engaged taking care of my partner and she is suffering a lot. So once I solve that problem, then I will contact you. So I have an intellectual understanding. But the mind is always seeking the pleasure out. It does not want to leave the pleasure outside. It says no. It says no. So I have created a duality. And in that duality, I will continue to suffer from second partner to the third and to the fourth and the fifth. So the master is saying that everyone wants to retain that sense of pleasure. That by dividing the world into I am and I am not. But the problem is that awakening is a non-dual. So there is a constant struggle between the two. I am bringing in some of the beautiful and I would say negative experiences of kundalini meditation. There comes the duality and a confusion, and we enter into hallucinations. We have an imagined pleasure. No, I have this and that. Colors in the visions. Because we have not clearly understood what exactly is the non-dual permanent state of the peace and consciousness that real self is happiness. There is no division into it. It is the ego that divides. Whether you say mind divides, intellect divides, ego divides, it is the same thing. It is the reflected consciousness. So many seekers, I would say 90% of the seekers who are treading the path, they do not understand it clearly, and then they say, I will continue to have all those pleasures. So in the Western world, we have a sexual meditation. Wow, what a great thing. A new age community has started. The moment we use the word tantra, it has to all related to the sex. In sex, we need two. Here we are talking of that real self is permanent peace and happiness. We do not understand, and that is causing a lot of problem. There is another fear that is also working, because the moment we are born, we have a sense of insecurity and the fear. So we don't want to leave those pleasures, because we feel if I leave all those pleasures, I will be more insecure. I'll be more insecure. Why? Because that pleasure is absent now. But that is an imagined pleasure. So a seeker has to be tough on their mind. That is there the concept of tapasya has come. But we need not to go to the tapasya if we can intellectually understand clearly and we are aware at the time of living our personal life, professional life, social life. The moment mind is drawn to any kind of pleasure in the world, we have to remember that that pleasure is emotional dependence. It is an imagined pleasure. It is due to the attachment. More and more we contemplate and reflect in the world. So what is going to happen? We get first result, the mind is gaining a tremendous focus on the real self. It will naturally be aware of the real self. It will naturally be withdrawn inside. It will not go outside. It is a change in perception. Change in perception. What is that change in perception? That is the most beautiful thing. You should never forget that. What is that perception? That perception makes me aware that there is no possibility of peace and happiness outside in the world. Perception with an imagined possibility is false. Now see, I'm using different words, modern words. And right perception with a possibility lies only in the real self. All the time. Why do you say, I'm sitting comfortably because I get pleasure from the body? The mind will object, and that objection belongs to the ignorance. I have to get rid of it all the time, anytime, anywhere, everywhere, in all relationships, in all situations, at all the time. I lie down on the bed. Here, we have a Labor Day. There is a celebration here of the Labor Day. So in any event, there is a sale. I was looking into my email, so it's known as a sleep number. So sleep number is a luxurious bed which cost you maybe $2,500. So now it's a Labor Day sale. They sell it 50% off to sleep better. We need a cognition. We need to inquire and reflect on this. If we don't reflect, it will continue to gather impressions. Another topic, number 43. Now the master is answering, our master answers that why you have these objections. Why you think that I want to retain that pleasure? Because you are attached. Because you have an emotional dependence. Because you have a sense of likes and dislikes. And we have already told you that unless you get rid of the likes and dislikes, you cannot reach to that state. So there are very deep impressions present in your mind because of the prarabdha, because of the current impression, because the way you are living your life. One woman who lives in the coastal areas in India, so she used to, her husband used to catch the fish and she used to sell all those fish. So the smell of the fish has become so much habitual. Every day she has to do the same thing. She has to cook the fish. And so one day her friend invited her to her house, and she used to sell the rose flower. So there is a smell of the fragrance of the rose. Within one day, she got upset. She says, you know, the smell that I get from your house is not good. It disturbs me. I'm not getting. What happened, you know? Rose smell, you know, what do you mean by it? So ultimately, they found out she is not getting the smell of the fish. It is so much habitual and addictive in our life. So we get a smell of the tea and a coffee, we get a smell of the sensual pleasure, we get the smell of the car and house, and you can add millions of the things. We have to become aware of that. And we don't need to practice, we simply become aware. We become aware, we separate it. So the master is hitting our ignorance. Master is hitting our emotional dependence. Master says, think of it. You're asking a question that I don't want to leave the pleasure. Hold it. I am asking you that why you don't want to leave the pleasure. Pleasure with in contact with some object? Yes, some object. So unless that contact is maintained, you get the pleasure. The contact is lost, the pleasure is gone. So that is why your mind in ignorance thinks because of that contact with an object you receive the pleasure. But the pleasure is in contact or it is in ignorance. Because I imagine that, you know, holding the mouse in my hand gives me a soothing sensation. But the soothing sensation is experienced in the mind. It is not in the mouse. I have to contemplate, constantly contemplate. It does not mean that you are not using all these things that you like. Go on. But we have to live into that cognitive ability. If we don't live into that cognitive ability, then we cannot get rid of these addictions. And if we cannot get rid of the addiction, the dispassion will not be there. The vairagya cannot be there. And if the vairagya is not there, we will continue to remain attached. And unnecessary stress we will keep on our mind. Unnecessary. It is not at all required. At any point of time in your life, let me see the other side of it. I love to discuss that. The moment you have a sense of anxiety, reaction, duality, conflict, upset, any form of sorrow in the suffering, you become aware what your mind is demanding and expecting. Because the mind wants to be a consumer, it could not become a consumer, that is why it is upset. When I volunteer a free session, I told you for these girls, there are 25 girls. You might have seen some videos of. So one took the initiative and I said, no, I have time, so I will continue to have the sessions. It has been almost going on for the last more than a year. More than a year, almost 2 years. So the one girl wrote me, the translator of this session is causing lot of problems. So I simply said that you delete her from the session and find someone else. Did I tell you? No. I learn a lot from them. So now the translator wrote me back criticizing the first girl. 3-page letter, 3-page email. And I saw all the criticism and I said, I'm not going to read it. But I forwarded that to the first girl. with a question, what do you have to say? Now, I normally don't do it, but I said, who is going to involve in this crazy stuff? And the first girl wrote another 3-page email.
But it's a woman team. It's always a lot of women. They always starting like this.
So I continued to forward their email, and then ultimately they stopped. I said, why should the third person go and claim that who is right and wrong? This is not my business. This is not my cup of tea. And the topic was ego. We have been covering for the last 3 months. It is because of the ego you have started blaming and complaining and criticizing. You claim that you understand it, but you do not understand it. That is the problem. I normally don't exchange it, but when I say, who is going to spend time on this issue? Even if I say one is right, the other will feel bad. So the problem will come. I said, I'm not going to do this stuff. So we have many ways to deal with these problems. Sometimes even our relations, the couple, they talk about it. Husband says nasty things about wife. Wife says. I said, no, I want to know the 3 best things, the good qualities that you observe. So there I have to continue the session, so I have to find another trick. So these tricks are nothing but these are the simple principles. So I have to calm down my ego, I have to drop that ignorance, I have to see the life in a different perspective, and that perception is not with an imagined possibility. I love you, I like you. Why? I imagined few things I like in you, so I can go along with you. But it is only an imagination. The imagination can be dropped by the mind at any time. Anyone can say, no, I don't want to talk to you because now you have a grey beard. So it is an imagined. It has nothing to do with it. The same thing we apply to our relations. So our relations, we say the same thing to our husband and wife and to our friends and fathers. You see the level of ignorance that is causing a lot of problems. We have to get rid of it. No way. That is why the master says everyone is a manifestation of the God. You have no right to like or dislike. They are simply the manifestation of God, because you exist because of that consciousness, so they exist also because of that existence. Why? We want to get rid of the ego. We want to get rid of the ego. Otherwise, the mind appears to get obsessed with an imagined pleasure and suffers. Mind also gets obsessed with an imagined pleasure and forgets the real goal. Your partner is wonderful. He or she has all the sensualities, and he or she makes you forget everything of all the problems of the world because of the sense. That is also a problem. You see, that is also a problem. He or she is always ready. Oh, you want to buy this? Okay, I will. You suffer and you buy. That is the greater part of the ignorance the master is pointing out. We have to work daily in our life. Is this happening in my mind? I have to get rid of this. So here the master is pointing out, I know you have been living with me, you have been learning from me, but I am questioning your mind. Are you a qualified seeker? You are raising unnecessary questions. You have to raise the bar of your qualification. Forget about that you are getting a pleasure. I don't want to leave the pleasure. Pay more attention that you become a qualified seeker. Leave all these stuff for a time being, and once you become a qualified seeker, then we will talk about it. What a beautiful way. So when I pay more attention that I have to become a qualified seeker, I go back and look back into the sense of attachment, likes and dislikes, the preferences in my life. And I look back at a very subtler level. My mind is attached to so many things which I have never seen before. Should I tell you one thing? This couple was struggling so much, but they are very intelligent and they wanted to discuss all the time. So I asked them that, can you tell me only one physical aspect of your partner which you were attracted and you are still attracted? The husband said, her eyes. Wife said, his forehead. I could see a glow. I said, don't you see the glow now? Very small and little issues. So I have to become a qualified seeker. I have to examine, cross-examine, and to see all the forms of attachment and likes and dislikes. So if I follow this, so what is the way to follow? Just after the meditation, every day you spend half an hour contemplating and reflecting what actions you performed. When you practice meditation in the evening, so obviously you can look back the entire life and the actions that you performed. Pay attention. Did you perform the Nitya Karma with that same attitude, or were you got attached and lost? And then examine. I can tell you, you will experience a freedom. You will laugh at yourself. Oh, I have not to do this again. So now the topic 44 comes. So obviously the Vairagya is required. It's a very deeper, but not very deep, so that you cannot understand. So I have to get rid of all the desires in order to have a desire to know the real self. So the seeker says that is also a desire. He is right. Desire to earn money and desire to know the real self. So desire is common. Desire to have a sex and desire to have a liberation. That is also a desire. Desire to have a sex or earn money. That object or person is outside you. It demands an effort. You need to perform an action. You need to come in contact with that object or a person. But desire to know the real self, you have to start thinking in a right way according to the principles of Eastern wisdom. That is the biggest difference. Desire to know the real self and desire to get anything in the world. Are you getting it? Desire to earn money. Where is the money? Money is outside. Desire to know the real self. The real self is inside. How much distance I have to cover to earn money? Lot of distance and the time and effort. And that is why, do you remember the question that I used to ask? How long it takes you to reach to your house from your office? 30 minutes. So there is a distance and there is a time. And how long it takes you to reach to yourself? My mind has to be educated to reach to myself where the effort is not required, where there is no time is required. Desire to know anything except the real self needs a right knowledge of that object which you desire. You need to be attached with that object, otherwise you don't need to get that object. And you have to make an effort. Your mind is outside. Your mind forgets the real self. It is more obsessed and focused on that object. Because it is more focused on that object, or maybe a partner, or maybe any object, that is why we get obsessed and attached. And there we imagine the pleasure. Because it is so much focused. I can tell you, you can focus on this mouse which is lying on my table for a week. Your mind will start liking this. So because of the attachment, we gain such a tremendous focus.
To like something or love something, you have to move the distance between you and this object. Yes. Yeah, definitely. So you have to become like one.
So you want to have an imagined oneness. It is not possible. It is imagination. It's a hallucination. You know, we normally say what we say. Two body, one soul. That's imagination. Two body, I don't know, two soul, one body, or two. I have to break up these wrong notions and ideas in my head clearly. Even my honey may say that we are two bodies, one soul. Outwardly you say you are right. You're right. But still I have to take care of my body and you have to take care of your body. In sleep, we don't know whether there are two bodies and one soul. We have to question to get rid of this duality. So remember this, pay attention. Now the things are becoming clear. Desire to know the real self. I need not to make an effort. I need not to come in contact. I need not to cover a distance. So it is for the highest seeker. For the highest seeker, I have to. How simple it is. Once we are a seeker, the things are very simple. So desire to know the real self, at the same time, while I have a desire to know the real self, I experience the sorrow and the suffering in my mind. I am able to explore the causes of my stress and the suffering in my life also. Because now the mind is moving inside. And in meditation, in any meditation, anyone guides you. And if one does the meditation, I've been telling you, it is moving within, living within, and awakening within. Any meditation. But provided you practice with an understanding, you don't carry the imagined pleasure with you. That will backfire. Otherwise, every meditation, it's a moving within. I should know what it means by moving within. Moving within means that now the mind is not having a desire to grab any object which I don't have. Meditation is a desire to know what I already have. What is already within me? What is always present? Only the ignorance covering has to be removed. Here and now also. Another argument this master gives, and every master gives, to those, I would say, the lower level of the seekers. So you like pasta that gives you a pleasure. So, okay. How long you eat pasta? 15 minutes. It gives me 5 grams of pleasure. Now, what happens after eating the pasta? The pleasure is gone. Ask yourself where the pleasure is gone. You want more pleasure? So take another plate of pasta. You take it, third, fourth. Now, the pleasure while taking the first plate of the pasta, there was 100 grams of pleasure. As you go on increasing eating the amount of the pasta, your pleasure goes on decreasing. And the time comes, you say, no, don't offer me any pasta, no more. I am fed up with this. I'm fed up with this. Oh, yes, that is the fact. I can tell you in any pleasure. You cannot do sex 24 hours, you cannot sleep 24 hours. You cannot drive 24 hours. Pick up anything, eating. You go on vacation for a week and after 2 days you feel the boredom. You have spent, that couple who got the ticket for Hawaii for a week, and once they reached, they became sick. So they enjoyed their vacation 1 week in sickness. So I told her, she got upset, what the heck you are saying? I said, that is the fact you told me. I'm just talking about the fact. So I should not go on vacation. That is the extreme. That is another attachment you are talking of. I'm not saying don't go on vacation. So that is another argument this master gives. Permanent elimination of the sorrow, clear understanding from where the happiness is located. I need a right knowledge, and that is what we are doing. 45th topic says, the worldly solution only give temporary relief from the misery, and we should use it. We should use it. I'm hungry, I should eat food. Remember this very, again, important point. I'm hungry. The problem, the hunger cannot be solved by awakening or by dispassion and discernment. I need a food. Why? This body depends on the world outside. I do not depend on the world outside. Consciousness is independent. Consciousness is independent. But there is something happens in our life. What that happens? You have no fear of death. Because you have no fear of the death, and sometime it happens that you don't have a food to eat, you still enjoy your life. That is the meaning of the fasting. That is the real meaning of the fasting. You have no fear of the death. And you say that, okay, I will not eat the food. My master used to go to the cremation ground, I told you, where the food cannot be available. And he said, he challenged the existence. I'm not going to eat for a week. I will continue to spend 1 week in the cremation ground where the food is not available. It cannot be made available. Nobody, goes with a lot of food and fan and fare to bury the worry. And this women saw my master. That is an extreme case. I never thought of doing that. So that woman whose husband died, and he was buried, and the women saw my master sitting at one corner of the cremation ground. So she went to her home and she cooked the food, and she returned in the midnight to offer the food. So it does not mean that the God is going to offer the food directly. God through different ways. And I met that woman. She recently died, a couple of years back. She dedicated the entire her house to the monastery. In the capital, in Delhi, it has become a center. So that is also a possibility. We can continue doing that experiment, but slow experiment. So understanding this, all the objects outside, when we come in contact, it gives us the temporary relief, temporary pleasure, and we take it casually. If I'm eating food which I like, without any attachment, there is no problem. That kind of a dispassion is required. That's another level. 45. So normally I should also understand you understand, but still I want to give you that clarity. You fell, now the blood is coming out from your knee, and you say, I am a great yoga man, I will not go to the medical doctor. You are crazy. Knowledge is available. Get the treatment from the medical doctor. The blood is coming out. What meditation will do? No. We have to examine, we have to use. So it's a temporary. Blood is coming temporarily, it will stop. So use the temporary treatment. We should use it. If anything gives us the temporary relief, if I am not able, I don't have that level of dispassion, I can do it. Why? We understand that sometimes the temporary solutions of the problem is also required, but we will not forget the self-knowledge gives us a permanent solution. Why I am saying so, my friend, that we get rid of the small objections in our mind, unnecessary reactions. Unnecessary reaction. Oh, you are taking a tea because, oh, you are doing yoga for the last 20 years. You are taking tea? Yes, I am taking tea. Then what? Our goal is the self-knowledge. Our goal is not to relate tea and a coffee with self-knowledge. That is another level of the ignorance. I want to leave it. Yes, I can leave it. So in the topic 45, the master says that there should be a focus on the need for this self-knowledge. Bring your mind back again and again. What is real self? The real self is eternal. Real self is truth. Real self, it is beyond the space and the time. I'm talking from the Gita. 6 characteristics of the real self. Real self is eternal, means it is not affected by the time. It is not affected by the name and the form. So that is why it is the truth. If you conclude both, the real self is all pervading consciousness. If you examine all the three, you will come to know that real self cannot be objectified. All the four brings you 4 and 5. All the brings, it cannot be the doer and the enjoyer. And ultimately it does not undergo any modifications. So I should live into that awareness. So this is what, I just repeating in a different way to myths. Now the topic 46. You have already covered that. So desire, the seeker is asking a question that you say that I should desire the real self. So, and the real self is of the nature of happiness. So the desire for happiness can create a desire to know the real self, and you are saying that you have to transcend the desire. So this desire is different than that desire. It's very clear. We have to be very clear about it. Yeah, I'm leaving that part. So 47th. Now this master makes us aware. Oh, did I tell you that you have to do the fourfold practices to become a qualified seeker? Yes. Do you still remember the Viveka? Yes. I still remember the Viveka. So can you intensify the contemplation and reflection so that you should have a higher level of discernment towards the attachment and you are asking the unnecessary questions? So you see, we go back to the same fourfold practices. Fourfold practices: Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampati, and Mumukshu, the intense desire for freedom and the liberation. So I have to check again and again, am I qualified? The moment I have an anxiety, stress and duality, let me check again, anytime, and it instantly, appears in my mind. I was lying down yesterday and mind said, now you feel a little bit tired, your right leg is tired. And next time the idea of the dispassion came to the mind. I'm already sleeping, let the body sleep. Finished. It does not create any impression. That consciousness remains very clear. So you don't feel the pain. If the body has a pain, obviously you feel the pain. But the pain is minimum because that pain is not taken over by the mind due to attachment, likes and dislikes. So you don't have a suffering. You don't suffer. I'm 65 after all, so the bones are becoming older and older. So they have to show their result. So we start thinking, then you are awakened, so your body should also be sweet 16. You are not the body, my friend. Why you get attached to this again and again? Understand this part. So he says you check yourself whether you are doing the qualification. So he gives one example that you say that if I don't know the real self, how can I desire the real self? So I covered that briefly and I'm repeating the same thing. It's not a big deal. Topic number 48, where the master is saying that you don't know sleep, but every day you want to sleep. And so sleep has that idea of permanent happiness. After the sleep you get that state of the peace and happiness. Don't you get it? Yes, I get it. Don't you desire to sleep? Yes. Do you know the sleep? No. why you desire to have a sleep, and that you every day you desire it. That is the way to desire the real self. That is the way to desire the real self. I think I covered almost 49. I did not to go the Vedantin. Yeah. Yes. Now he says that is why you have been listening to you. You have been listening to me, my friend seeker. You have to continue listening. Don't you see that by listening all your objections are removed? So Shravanam is very important. So the master brings him back. Why Shravanam is important? Because when you Shravan, you listen and learn, and after that you do the repeat listening with the contemplation and reflection, you are able to change yourself. You are able to change yourself. So now let me see which is the yes. So yes, so now we come to why. We will talk about it. Topic number 52. There are 5 or 6 topics, which says then seeker has another doubt. I've been listening to you. Sometimes I feel bored, and sometimes I become a seeker. But why not everyone is interested in this journey? So that your doubt should also be removed, why everyone is not interested and why you are interested.